It was a bright and sunny Saturday morning in Pinewood Estates. This was a small, quiet neighborhood where everybody seemed to know everybody, or at least, that's what people thought. The houses sat neatly in rows, with green lawns and pretty flowers. Birds chirped in the trees, and the air smelled like fresh grass. It was the kind of place where you'd expect nothing exciting to happen. But today? Oh, today was going to be different. Let me tell you about Jake Riley. Jake was a regular guy who had just moved into Pinewood Estates. He wasn't super tall or super short. He didn't wear fancy clothes or talk super loud. He was just Jake. He drove a big pickup truck, the kind you might see on a farm or out in the country. Jake liked his truck a lot. It was black and shiny, and he kept it clean. He'd moved here hoping for a nice, peaceful life. No drama, no fights, just a quiet spot to call home. But there was one thing about Jake's truck that stood out. The windows were dark. Really, really dark. You couldn't see inside at all. It was called window tint, and Jake's tint was way darker than most people's. To Jake, it wasn't a big deal. He liked it that way. It kept the sun out and made the truck feel cozy. Plus, it looked cool. But not everyone thought it was cool. Nope. Someone was watching Jake and his truck, and she didn't like what she saw. Her name was Karen Miller. Karen wasn't just any neighbor, she was the boss of the neighborhood, or at least she acted like it. She was the unofficial queen of the HOA. Now, if you don't know what an HOA is, it's a group of people who make rules for a neighborhood. They decide things like how tall your grass can be or what color your house can be painted. Karen loved those rules. She loved them so much that she walked around with a clipboard all the time, checking on everyone. If your mailbox was crooked or your dog barked too loud, Karen would know. And she'd write it down. Karen wasn't tall, but she walked like she was the biggest person around. She had short hair that was always perfect, and she wore bright clothes that made her easy to spot. She carried that clipboard like it was a crown, and she wasn't afraid to tell people what to do. Cut your grass, she'd say. Move that trash can, she'd yell. Most people just nodded and did what she said because it was easier than arguing. Karen liked being in charge, and she didn't like anything or anyone that didn't fit her perfect little world. And guess what? Jake's truck didn't fit. That dark window tint? Oh, it drove Karen crazy. She'd stand on her porch, squinting at it, her lips pressed tight together. She didn't like that she couldn't see inside. She didn't like that it looked different from all the other cars in Pinewood Estates. To her, different was bad. Different was trouble. And Karen didn't want trouble in her neighborhood. So, she decided right then and there that Jake's truck was her next big problem to fix. Jake didn't know any of this yet. He was just a guy unpacking boxes in his new house. He had a little TV, a couch, and a bed he still needed to put together. He was thinking about planting some flowers in the front yard or maybe getting a dog someday. He wasn't thinking about Karen or her clipboard. He wasn't thinking about trouble. All he wanted was to settle in and enjoy his new home. Poor Jake. He had no idea what was coming. That Saturday morning, Jake woke up early. The sun was shining through his window, and he stretched his arms with a big yawn. He decided it was a good day to wash his truck. He grabbed a bucket, some soap, and a big sponge, then headed outside. The neighborhood was quiet. A few kids rode their bikes down the street, laughing and shouting. An old man waved from his porch. Everything felt normal. Jake smiled to himself as he filled the bucket with water. He liked it here already. He started washing his truck, humming a little song. The water splashed on the black paint, making it shine even more. He scrubbed the sides and wiped down the hood. Then he got to the windows. Those dark, dark windows. He ran the sponge over them, watching the bubbles slide down. To him, they looked great. He didn't think twice about it. Why would he? It was just a truck. But across the street, Karen was watching. She stood on her porch, holding her coffee mug, her eyes locked on Jake. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just stared. Her coffee got cold as she watched him scrub those windows. Her fingers tightened around her mug. That tint, she muttered to herself. That tint is too dark. She didn't know the rules about window tint off the top of her head, but she was sure it was wrong. It had to be. Anything she didn't like was wrong in her book. Karen set her mug down and grabbed her clipboard. She flipped through her papers, looking for anything about windows. She didn't find it right away, but that didn't stop her. She'd figure it out later. For now, she just knew she didn't like Jake's truck. And when Karen didn't like something, she didn't sit quietly. Oh no. She did something about it? She always did. Jake kept washing, totally clueless. He didn't see Karen staring. He didn't hear her muttering. He was just happy to be outside on a nice day. The kids on bikes rode by again, and he waved at them. They waved back, grinning. The old man on the porch gave him a thumbs up. Jake felt good. He felt like he belonged. But that feeling wasn't going to last long. Karen stepped off her porch and started walking toward Jake's house. Her shoes clicked on the sidewalk, sharp and loud. She held her clipboard tight, like it was a weapon. Her eyes never left the truck. She didn't care that Jake seemed nice. She didn't care that he waved at the kids. All she cared about was that tint. That dark, mysterious tint. To her, it wasn't just a window, it was a challenge. And Karen never backed down from a challenge. Jake was rinsing off the soap when he heard the footsteps. He turned around, water dripping from his sponge, and saw Karen coming his way. She didn't look happy. Her mouth was a straight line, and her eyes were narrow. Jake tilted his head, confused. He didn't know her. He didn't know why she was marching toward him like that. But he was about to find out. Karen stopped a few feet away and pointed at the truck. "You," she said, her voice loud and bossy. "What's with those windows?" Jake blinked. He wasn't sure what she meant. What about them?" he asked, wiping his hands on his jeans. Karen huffed, like he'd said something silly. "They're too dark," she snapped. "Way too dark. That's not allowed around here." Jake scratched his head. "Not allowed," he said. "Says who?" Karen puffed up, standing taller. "Says me," she barked. "I'm with the HOA, and we have rules. That tint is trouble, and I don't like trouble." Jake stared at her. He didn't know what an HOA was. He didn't know who this lady was. He just wanted to finish washing his truck. But Karen wasn't done. She started writing something on her clipboard, muttering as she went. "Too dark, suspicious, new guy." Jake watched her, still confused. "It's just tint," he said. "It's not a big deal." Karen stopped writing and glared at him. "Not a big deal," she repeated, her voice getting louder. "We'll see about that." Jake shrugged. He didn't get why she was so mad. It was just a truck. But to Karen, it wasn't just a truck. It was a problem. A big problem. And she was going to fix it, no matter what. She turned on her heel and stormed back to her house, her clipboard flapping in her hand. Jake watched her go, shaking his head. "Weird lady," he mumbled to himself. Then he went back to rinsing his truck. What Jake didn't know, what he couldn't know yet, was that Karen wasn't just a weird lady. She was trouble. Big trouble. She didn't like his truck, and she didn't like him. And when Karen didn't like something, she didn't stop. She kept going until she got her way. Jake had no idea, but he just made an enemy. A very loud, very bossy enemy. Here's the fun part, though. Karen thought she knew everything. She thought she had all the power. She thought Jake was just some new guy with a dumb truck. But she didn't know the truth. She didn't know who Jake really was. And that's where the story gets good. What do you think Karen didn't know about Jake? Want to find out? Stick around, because you won't believe what happens next. Monday came fast after that sunny Saturday. The weekend was over, and the quiet little neighborhood of Pinewood Estates woke up to a new week. The sun was still shining, but it wasn't as warm. A cool breeze blew through the trees, making the leaves wiggle. Kids were at school now, and most grown ups were at work. The street was empty except for Jake Riley. He was outside in his driveway, washing his big black pickup truck again. He liked keeping it clean. It made him happy. Jake had a bucket full of soapy water. Bubbles floated up as he dipped his sponge in and scrubbed the truck. He wiped the hood, then the sides, and then he got to those dark windows. The tint was so black you couldn't see a thing inside. Jake didn't mind. He liked it that way. He hummed a little tune while he worked, not thinking about much. Just soap, water, and his truck. Everything was peaceful. For now. But then, across the street, Karen Miller was watching. She wasn't sipping coffee this time. Nope. She was standing at her window, peeking through the curtains. Her nose was practically twitching, like a bunny that smelled something bad. She'd been thinking about Jake's truck all weekend. Those windows, they bugged her. They bugged her a lot. She didn't like them on Saturday, and she didn't like them now. To Karen, they weren't just windows. They were a big, fat problem. Karen grabbed her clipboard off the kitchen table. She always kept it close, like it was her best friend. She flipped through the pages, looking at her notes. She'd written stuff about Jake already. New guy, dark tint, suspicious, it said in her messy handwriting. She nodded to herself, like she was agreeing with her own words. That's right, she muttered. Suspicious. She didn't have proof Jake was bad, but she didn't need proof. She just didn't like him. And that was enough for her. Karen put on her shoes, bright red ones that clicked when she walked. She straightened her shirt, puffed up her hair a little, and marched outside. Her clipboard was tucked under her arm, and her face was all scrunched up. She wasn't happy. Not one bit. She crossed the street, her shoes making loud clicks on the pavement. Jake didn't hear her at first. He was too busy scrubbing his truck, splashing water everywhere. But Karen was coming, and she wasn't quiet for long. She stopped right at the edge of Jake's driveway and put her hands on her hips. "Excuse me, young man," she snapped. Her voice was sharp, like a teacher yelling at a kid who forgot his homework. Jake jumped a little, surprised. He turned around, holding his wet sponge. Water dripped onto the ground as he looked at her. "Huh," he said, blinking. He didn't know why she sounded so mad. Karen pointed at his truck, her finger jabbing the air. "That tint," she said, loud and bossy. "It's way too dark." Jake looked at his truck, then back at her. He didn't get it. "What's wrong with it?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag he had in his pocket. Karen's nose twitched even more. "What's wrong?" she repeated, like he'd asked something silly. "It's against HOA rules. And frankly, it looks suspicious." Jake tilted his head. "Suspicious," he said. "It's just tint, lady." He didn't see the big deal. To him, it was no different than picking a blue shirt over a red one. It was just how he liked his truck. But Karen didn't care what he liked. She puffed up her chest, making herself look bigger. "Suspicious," she said again, louder this time. "What are you hiding in there?" Jake blinked again. Nothing," he said. He sounded confused because he was. He wasn't hiding anything. It was just a truck. He used it to drive to the store or move his boxes. There was nothing spooky or secret about it. But Karen didn't believe him. Not even a little. She narrowed her eyes, staring at him like he was a puzzle she needed to solve. "Nothing, huh," she said, her voice all sneaky. "We'll see about that." Jake scratched his head. "Okay," he said slowly. He still didn't get why she was so upset. But Karen wasn't done. "Oh no." She took a big step closer, pointing at the truck again. "I'm with the HOA," she said, like it was the most important job in the world. "We have rules here. Rules you have to follow. And that tint? It's not allowed. It's trouble. And we don't need troublemakers around here." Jake looked at her, then at his truck, then back at her. "Troublemaker," he said. "Lady, I just moved in. I'm not making trouble." He was trying to be nice, but Karen didn't want nice. She wanted to win. She always wanted to win. She shook her head, her hair bouncing a little. "You don't fool me," she said. "I know your type. Sneaky. Up to no good. I'm not letting this slide." Jake shrugged. "Okay," he said again. He didn't know what else to say. He figured she was just mad for no reason. Maybe she'd go away if he stayed calm. He turned back to his truck and kept washing, splashing water on the windows. He thought maybe she was bluffing, saying big things but not really doing anything. Boy, was he wrong. Karen's face turned red. She didn't like being ignored. Not one bit. "Oh, you think this is a joke," she said, her voice getting higher. "You think I'm just talking? Well, I'm not." She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. It was bright yellow, just like her loud personality. She held it up like it was a prize. "I'm calling the authorities," she said, glaring at Jake. "The police. They'll deal with you." Jake stopped washing. He turned around again, the sponge dripping in his hand. "The police," he said. "For Tint." He couldn't believe it. It sounded crazy. Who calls the cops over something so small? But Karen wasn't kidding. She tapped her phone fast, her fingers flying over the screen. Then she put it to her ear and started talking. "Hello? Yes, 911? I need help right now," she said, her voice all dramatic. Jake watched her, his mouth open a little. He didn't know what to do. Karen paced back and forth in his driveway, waving her free hand as she talked. "There's a shady character here," she told the person on the phone. "He's got illegal tint on his truck. It's way too dark. He's probably hiding something bad. You need to send someone fast." She sounded like she was in a movie, acting all big and important. Jake just stood there, holding his rag. He didn't say anything. He didn't move. He figured she was being silly and the police wouldn't care. It was just Tint, right? No one would come for that. He shrugged again and went back to his truck. "Whatever," he mumbled under his breath. He didn't think she'd really get anywhere with her call. But here's the thing she did. Karen hung up the phone and smirked at him. "They're coming," she said, crossing her arms. "You'll see. You can't break the rules around here and get away with it." Jake looked at her, still calm. "Okay," he said one more time. He didn't sound scared. He didn't sound mad. He just sounded fine. Too fine. Like he wasn't worried at all. And that made Karen pause. Why wasn't he scared? Why wasn't he arguing? Most people would yell back or beg her to stop. But Jake? He just kept washing his truck like nothing was happening. Karen didn't like that. She liked it when people got nervous. She liked it when they listened to her. She loved throwing her weight around, making everyone feel small. It made her feel big. It made her feel strong. She'd been bossing people around in Pinewood Estates for years. If someone parked wrong, she'd tell them. If someone's dog barked too much, she'd write them up. She'd even made a guy paint his fence because she didn't like the color. Everyone did what she said because they didn't want the trouble. Karen was good at trouble. But Jake wasn't playing her game. He didn't look small. He didn't look scared. He just kept scrubbing his truck, calm as could be. And that bugged Karen even more. "You'll see," she said again, louder this time. "The cops will come, and then you'll be sorry." Jake didn't answer. He just nodded a little, like he was saying, "Sure, lady." He didn't seem to care. Karen stomped her foot. She didn't know why he was so cool about it. Most people would freak out if someone called the police on them. They'd yell or explain or try to fix it. But Jake? He acted like it was no big deal. Like he had nothing to worry about. And that made Karen wonder. What was he hiding? Why was he so chill? Was he really just a guy with a truck, or was there more to him? She stared at him, her eyes squinting. She wanted to figure him out. She wanted to win this fight. She thought she was in control, like always. She thought she could scare him and make him do what she wanted. But Jake didn't budge. He didn't flinch. He just kept washing, his hands moving slow and steady over the dark windows. Karen didn't know it yet, but she was wrong about him. Really wrong. See, Jake wasn't just some new guy. He wasn't just a regular dude with a truck. There was something about him, something big that Karen didn't see coming. She thought she had all the power, but Jake? He had a secret. A good one. And that secret was why he stayed so calm. Why he didn't care about her yelling or her phone call. What was he hiding that kept him so cool? You'll find out soon. The next day came quick. It was Tuesday now, and the sun was up in Pinewood Estates. The neighborhood was still quiet, just like always. Kids were at school, and most grown UPS were at work. The street looked empty, with green grass and pretty flowers all around. But something was about to happen. Something big. Jake was inside his house, eating a sandwich. He had peanut butter and jelly on bread, his favorite. He was sitting on his couch, chewing slow, when he heard a noise outside. It was a car. Not just any car, a police car. The sound of the engine got closer, and then it stopped right in front of his house. Jake put his sandwich down and peeked out the window. Sure enough, there it was, a police cruiser, white and black, with lights on top. 2 cops were inside. Across the street, Karen Miller was ready. She'd been waiting for this all morning. She stood on her porch, arms crossed tight, a big smirk on her face. That smirk said she thought she'd won something, like she'd hit the jackpot in a game. She'd called the police yesterday about Jake's truck, and now they were here. To her, this was proof she was right. She was so happy she could barely stand still. The car doors opened, and 2 officers stepped out. One was tall with a hat, and the other was shorter with sunglasses. They both had badges on their shirts and radios on their belts. Karen didn't waste a second. She practically skipped off her porch, her red shoes clicking fast on the steps. She waved her hands like she was welcoming old friends. "Officers," she shouted, her voice loud and excited. "Thank goodness you're here." The cops looked at her and nodded. They were polite, but they didn't smile. Karen didn't care. She pointed at Jake's truck in the driveway. "That truck," she said, her finger jabbing the air. "It's a safety hazard. The tint is way too dark. He's probably up to no good." She was talking fast now, like she couldn't get the words out quick enough. She wanted them to listen. She wanted them to agree. The taller officer tilted his head a little. The shorter one adjusted his sunglasses. They didn't say much, just hum and a nod. Karen thought they were on her side. She thought they'd march right over to Jake's truck and do something big. But they didn't. Instead, they glanced at each other. It was a quick look, like they were sharing a secret. Then the shorter one mumbled something into his radio. It was too quiet for Karen to hear, but he said something. What was that about? Jake heard the voices outside and decided to see what was going on. He wiped his hands on his jeans, no peanut butter on them now, and stepped out his front door. He didn't rush. He didn't look scared. He just walked out slow, hands in his pockets, like it was no big deal. He stood on his porch and watched. His truck was still there in the driveway, shiny and black, with those dark windows Karen hated so much. Karen saw him come out and got even louder. "There he is," she said, pointing at Jake now. "That's the guy. I bet he's got something illegal in that truck. You should search it." She was bouncing a little, so excited she couldn't stand still. To her, this was it. The cops were here, and Jake was in trouble. She'd won. Or so she thought. The taller officer turned to her. "Ma'am," he said, his voice calm but firm. "We'll handle it. Why don't you step back for a moment?" He didn't yell, but he sounded like he meant it. Karen's smirk faded a little. Step back. She didn't want to step back. She wanted to watch. She wanted to be in charge. But she started to say, but the officer held up a hand. "Please," he said. "We've got this." Karen huffed. She didn't like that. She crossed her arms again and took one tiny step back, but she didn't go far. She stayed close, watching everything. The cops turned toward Jake's house now. They started walking up the driveway, slow and steady. Karen's eyes got big. This was it. They were going to get him. She was sure of it. Jake stood there, hands still in his pockets. He didn't move. He didn't say anything. He just watched the cops come closer. The taller one looked at him, and Jake looked back. Then something funny happened. Jake gave a tiny nod, just a little dip of his head, so small you might miss it. The taller officer nodded back, just as small. It was quick, like a secret signal. Karen didn't see it. She was too busy staring at the truck. But that nod. Oh, it meant something. It was like Jake and the cop knew each other. Like they weren't strangers. What was going on? Did Jake have a secret? Something Karen didn't know? Something nobody knew? The shorter cop mumbled into his radio again, saying more quiet words. The taller one kept walking, but he didn't look mad. He didn't look like he was here to arrest anyone. He just looked calm. Too calm. Karen didn't notice any of this. She was too busy talking. "See," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I told you. That tint is illegal. He's hiding something. You need to check it out." She kept pointing at the truck, her voice getting higher and higher. She thought the cops were here because of her. She thought she'd called them, and now they'd fix her problem. She was so sure she was right. The cop stopped a few feet from Jake. The taller one looked at the truck, then back at Jake. "This your truck?" he asked. His voice was steady, not angry. Jake nodded. "Yep," he said. Simple as that. The shorter cop wrote something on a little pad he had. Karen leaned forward, trying to hear more. "Ask him what's inside," she yelled. "Make him open it." The taller officer turned to her again. "Ma'am," he said, a little sharper this time. "We're handling it. Please stay back." Karen's mouth opened, then closed. She didn't like being told what to do. She was the one who told people what to do. But the cop's face was serious, so she stayed quiet for once. She glared at Jake instead, her eyes like little darts. Jake didn't glare back. He didn't even look at her. He just stood there, watching the cops. The taller one stepped closer to the truck and peeked at the windows. "Dark tint," he said, like he was just pointing out the weather. Jake nodded again. "Yeah," he said. "I like it that way." The cop didn't laugh, but his mouth twitched a little, like he almost smiled. Almost. Karen couldn't take it anymore. "Dark tint," she shouted. "It's not just dark, it's against the rules. You need to do something." She stomped her foot, her red shoe making a loud smack on the ground. The shorter cop looked at her, then at the taller one. They didn't say anything to her. They just kept doing their job, slow and easy. The taller cop looked at Jake again. "Mind if we take a look?" he asked. Jake shrugged. "Go ahead," he said. He didn't sound worried. He didn't sound like he was hiding anything. He just stepped to the side and let them look. The shorter cop walked around the truck, checking the windows and the tires. The taller one stayed near Jake, watching him. Karen's smirk came back. She thought this was it. They'd find something bad, and she'd be the hero. She'd tell everyone in Pinewood Estates how she caught the troublemaker. She could already hear herself bragging at the next HOA meeting. "I knew it," she'd say. "I knew he was no good." She stood there, waiting for the big moment. But the cops didn't act like they were finding anything bad. The shorter one finished looking and shook his head at the taller one. The taller one nodded back. It was another secret signal, but Karen didn't catch it. She was too busy imagining Jake in trouble. The taller cop turned to Jake. "Looks fine," he said. "We'll need to check some stuff, but no big deal." Jake nodded. "Sure," he said. Calm as ever. Karen's smirk dropped. "Fine," she said, her voice squeaky. "What do you mean, fine? That tint is illegal. You can't just let him go." She waved her arms, getting loud again. The taller cop sighed. "Ma'am," he said, "we've got it under control. Please go back to your house." Karen's face turned red. She didn't want to go back. She wanted to see Jake get in trouble. But then something else happened. The shorter cop's radio crackled. A voice came through, fuzzy but loud enough to hear. "Unit 12, you got an update," it said. The shorter cop pressed a button and talked back. "Yeah, we're here. Checking it out." The voice said something else, too quiet to hear, and the cop nodded. He looked at the taller one and said, "They're on the way." Karen blinked. "Who's on the way?" she asked, but the cops didn't answer her. They just kept doing their thing. Jake stood there, hands still in his pockets, watching it all. He didn't look surprised. He didn't look scared. He just looked ready. Like he knew something was coming. Something Karen didn't expect. The cop stepped back from the truck. The taller one looked at Jake again, and there was that tiny nod again. Jake nodded back. It was so fast, So small, but it was there. Karen still didn't see it. She was too busy yelling. "You're not done," she said. "You didn't even look inside. He's hiding something, I know it." She was sure she was right. She was always sure. But Jake? He wasn't hiding what she thought. He had a secret, sure. A big one. And it wasn't about the truck, or at least, not the way Karen thought. Those little nods with the cop. Those quiet radio talks. They meant something. Something was happening, and it was bigger than Karen's rules. Bigger than her clipboard. Bigger than her yelling. The cops didn't rush. They didn't yell back at Karen. They just stood there, waiting. And Jake waited too. Calm. Cool. Like he wasn't worried at all. Karen kept talking, kept pointing, kept trying to be the boss. But she didn't know what was coming. She didn't know the truth. Wait a sec, did Jake have a secret? Something big? Keep watching, because it's about to get wild. It was still Tuesday in Pinewood Estates, and things were getting wild. The two cops were standing in Jake's driveway, looking at his truck with the dark windows. Karen Miller was right there too, yelling and pointing like she always did. She was so sure she was in charge. She thought the cops were here because of her, because she'd called them about Jake's tint. She was ready to argue some more, her mouth opening wide to let out another big shout. But just as she started to say something, a new sound stopped her. It was a car. Not a loud police car with lights, but a quiet one. A plain black sedan rolled up slow and parked right behind the police cruiser. Everyone turned to look. The cops stopped talking. Karen's mouth stayed open, but no words came out. Jake. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, watching like it was no big deal. The car door opened, and a man stepped out. He wasn't wearing a police uniform like the other two. Nope. He had on a suit, black and neat, with a shiny badge clipped to his belt. The badge sparkled in the sunlight, catching everyone's eye. He was tall, with short hair and a serious face, but he didn't look mad. He looked like he knew exactly what he was doing. The two cops stood up straighter when they saw him, like they were showing respect. Karen's face? It went pale. Really pale. Like she'd seen a ghost. Jake finally said something. He'd been quiet this whole time, just watching and nodding. But now he spoke, and his voice was steady. "Hey, Mike," he said, all calm and easy. "Took you long enough." The man in the suit, Mike, grinned a little. "Sorry, Jake," he said back. "Had to wrap up some paperwork." He sounded like he was joking, but his eyes were sharp, looking around at everyone. Karen's mouth moved, but she couldn't talk right. What's going on?" she sputtered, her voice all shaky. "Who are you people?" She looked at Jake, then at Mike, then at the cops. Her hands flapped a little, like she didn't know what to do with them. She was confused. Really confused. She thought she'd called the cops on Jake, but now it felt like something else was happening. Something big. Jake turned to her. He didn't rush. He didn't yell. He just looked at her, calm as ever, and said, "Guess I should have introduced myself proper." He took a little step forward, hands still in his pockets. "Name's Jake Riley," he said. Then he paused, letting the words hang in the air. "Detective Jake Riley." Boom. There it was. The big secret. Karen's eyes got wide. The cops didn't blink. Mike just nodded, like he already knew. Jake kept going. "Been working undercover here for weeks," he said. "That tint you hate so much. It's standard for my job. Helps me stay hidden while I watch stuff." He pointed at his truck, the one Karen had been mad about since day one. "Oh, and those cops," he added, nodding at the two officers. "They're not here for me." He said it so simple, so easy, like he was talking about the weather. Karen's jaw dropped. Her mouth hung open like a fish, and her face went from pale to red. She didn't know what to say. She'd been so sure Jake was a bad guy. She'd been so sure his truck was trouble. But now she was finding out he wasn't just some new guy with dark windows. He was a detective. A real one. And he'd been watching her neighborhood, watching everything. The man in the suit, Mike, stepped forward now. He pulled a piece of paper out of his pocket. It was folded neat, but when he opened it, everyone could see it was important. "Karen Miller," he said, his voice loud and clear. "We've got some questions for you." He held up the paper. "A warrant. That's a special paper that says the police can take you in. It's about those fake HOA fines you've been pocketing," he said. "You're coming with us." Karen's eyes got even wider. Fake fines," she stammered. "What? No. I didn't," but she couldn't finish. The two cops moved toward her, slow but sure. The taller one took out a pair of handcuffs. They clicked as he opened them. Karen's jaw dropped all the way now. She looked like she might fall over. "No," she yelled. "This is a mistake. I'm the good guy here." But Mike shook his head. "We've been watching you two, Karen," he said. "Jake's been here, keeping an eye on things. Those fines you made people pay? They weren't real. You kept the money for yourself. That's stealing." He didn't sound mad, just firm, like a teacher telling you the rules. The taller cop grabbed Karen's arm gently but strong. "Let's go," he said. Karen freaked out. "No," she shouted again. "You can't do this. I called you. I'm the one who..." But the cops didn't listen. They started walking her toward the police car. Her red shoes dragged a little on the ground. She twisted her head back to look at Jake. "You," she yelled. "You tricked me." Jake didn't say anything. He just watched, still calm, still cool. Mike turned to Jake and smiled a little. "Good work," he said. "She didn't see this coming." Jake nodded. "Nope," he said. "She was too busy yelling about my truck." Mike laughed, a short, quiet laugh. "Guess that tint came in handy," he said. Jake shrugged. "Always does," he said back. Karen kept yelling as the cops put her in the car. "This isn't fair," she cried. "I'm not the bad guy." "He is." She pointed at Jake through the window, her face all red and sweaty now. But the cops just closed the door. The shorter one got in the front seat, and the taller one walked back to Jake and Mike. "She's loud," he said. Jake grinned a tiny bit. "Yeah," he said. "She's been loud since I got here." The police car started up, and Karen's voice got quieter as it pulled away. She was still shouting, but you couldn't hear the words anymore. The black sedan stayed parked, and Mike stood next to Jake. "How long did you know?" Mike asked. Jake thought for a second. "A couple weeks," he said. "People started talking. Said she was charging them money for dumb stuff like painting a mailbox or planting flowers. Money that never went to the HOA." Mike nodded. "Smart," he said. "You blended right in." Jake shrugged again. "That's the job," he said. "Stay quiet, watch, wait." He looked at his truck. "Tint helps," he added. Mike laughed again. "Sure does," he said. "She never guessed you were a cop." And she didn't. Karen had been so sure Jake was trouble. She'd watched him wash his truck, seen those dark windows, and decided he was bad. She'd called the cops, thinking she'd win. But Jake wasn't the bad guy. He was the good guy. A detective, working undercover, pretending to be just a regular guy. His truck wasn't hiding anything illegal, it was hiding him. Hiding his job. And it worked. Karen thought the cops were there for Jake. She thought she'd caught him. But the truth? They were there for her. She'd been stealing from her neighbors, taking their money with fake fines and keeping it all. Jake had been watching her the whole time, quiet and sneaky, waiting for the right moment. And now that moment was here. Boom. The big reveal. Karen's game was over. The neighbors started peeking out their windows now. They'd heard the yelling, seen the police car. A lady with curly hair opened her door a crack. An old man with a cane stepped onto his porch. They all looked at Jake, then at the car driving away with Karen. They didn't know what was happening, not yet. But they'd find out soon. Jake stood there, hands still in his pockets. Mike clapped him on the shoulder. "Nice job, detective," he said. Jake nodded. "Thanks," he said. "She made it easy. Too busy yelling to notice me watching." Mike grinned. "That's how it goes," he said. "The loud ones never see it coming." The police car was gone now, Out of sight. Karen was on her way to the station, still mad, still confused. She'd thought she was the queen of Pinewood Estates. She'd thought she could boss everyone around forever. But Jake? He'd been the real boss all along, just quiet about it. His secret was out now, and it was a big one. Detective Jake Riley. Who'd have guessed? The truck sat there in the driveway, black and shiny, with those dark windows. It didn't look like much to Karen before, just something to complain about. But now it meant something else. It was Jake's cover, his trick, his way of staying hidden while he did his job. And it worked perfectly. Karen never saw it coming. Not even a little. Boom, didn't see that coming, did you? Jake wasn't just a guy with a truck. He was a hero, sneaky and smart. And Karen? She was the real troublemaker all along. The cops took her away, and Jake stayed right where he was, calm and cool, like always. What a twist. The police car sat in Jake's driveway, its engine humming soft and low. Karen Miller was in big trouble now. The two cops, the tall one and the short one, had her by the arms. They put shiny silver handcuffs on her wrists, and the cuffs clicked loud when they snapped shut. Karen didn't like that one bit. No, she yelled, her voice bouncing down the quiet street. This isn't right. Let me go. But the cops didn't let go. They kept walking her to the car, step by step. Karen's red shoes dragged a little on the ground. She twisted and turned, trying to pull away, but the cops were strong. You've got the wrong person, she shouted. Her face was red, and her hair was messy now, not so perfect anymore. She looked back at Jake, glaring hard. This is your fault, she cried. But Jake didn't say anything. He just leaned against his truck, watching her go. The taller cop opened the back door of the police car. The shorter one helped Karen sit down inside. She didn't want to sit, but she didn't have a choice. I didn't do anything, she kept saying, over and over. Her voice was loud, echoing past the houses and the green lawns. Some birds flew out of a tree, scared by the noise. But the cops didn't listen to her. They knew the truth. And so did Jake. See, Karen had been bad for a long time. Years, even. She'd been scamming all the neighbors in Pinewood Estates. She told them they had to pay fines money for breaking her silly HOA rules. Your grass is too long, she'd say, or your mailbox is the wrong color. People believed her because she acted so bossy, like she was in charge. They gave her cash or checks, thinking it was for the neighborhood. But it wasn't. Karen kept it all. Straight into her bank account it went, like a secret piggy bank just for her. Jake found out about it because someone got fed up. A lady named Mrs. Carter, who lived 3 houses down, was tired of paying. She'd given Karen $50 last month because Karen said her flowers were too bright. Too bright? Can you believe that? Mrs. Carter didn't think it was fair. So she called the police and told them what was happening. That's when Jake got the tip. He was a detective, after all his job was to catch bad guys. Or bad ladies, like Karen. So Jake moved into Pinewood Estates with his big black truck. That tint Karen hated so much. It wasn't just for looks. It was a cover, a trick to help him stay sneaky. With those dark windows, no one could see him watching. No one could tell he was a cop. He looked like a regular guy, just washing his truck and unpacking boxes. But really, he was building a case. Day after day, he watched Karen. He wrote down what she did, who she talked to, and how she bossed everyone around. The neighbors didn't know any of this, not until now. As the police car sat there with Karen inside, people started peeking out their windows. Mrs. Carter opened her curtains a little, her eyes big. The old man with the cane stepped onto his porch again, leaning on his stick. A mom with 2 kids pulled back her blinds, whispering to her little boy. They all saw Karen in the car, yelling and kicking the seat in front of her. They saw the cops. And they saw Jake, standing by his truck, cool as can be. The taller cop shut the car door. Karen's voice got quieter, muffled inside. You could still hear her, but it wasn't so loud anymore. This is a mistake, she shouted through the window. I'll sue you all. But no one believed her now. The shorter cop got in the front seat and started the car. The engine growled a little, ready to go. Jake watched it all, leaning on his truck. His arms were crossed now, and he looked relaxed. The taller cop walked over to him, brushing his hands together like he'd just finished a job. "Good work, Riley," he said, clapping Jake on the shoulder. His hand made a little thump on Jake's shirt. "Neighborhood's gonna sleep better now." He smiled, showing his teeth. He was proud of Jake. They all were. Jake smiled back, just a little. "All in a day's work," he said. His voice was quiet, like always. He didn't need to brag. He didn't need to yell. He'd done his job, and that was enough. The taller cop nodded. "You're good at this undercover stuff," he said. "She didn't suspect a thing." Jake shrugged. "That's the point," he said. "Stay quiet, let them slip up." And Karen had slipped up big time. She'd been so busy yelling about Jake's truck that she didn't notice him watching her. She didn't see him talking to Mrs. Carter or writing notes. She didn't know he was waiting for the perfect moment to catch her. That moment was today. The cops had the proof papers and bank stuff showing all the money she took. It was over for her. The police car started to move. The tires crunched on the driveway as it backed up, then turned onto the street. Karen's face was pressed against the window, still red and mad. She banged her hands on the glass, but it didn't do anything. The car kept going, slow at first, then faster. It rolled past the houses, past the green lawns, and out of sight. Karen's reign of terror, her time of being the big boss, was done. The neighbors came out now. Not all at once, but little by little. Mrs. Carter stepped onto her porch, holding a cup of tea. "Is she gone?" she called to Jake. He nodded. "Yeah," he said. "She's gone." Mrs. Carter smiled big. "Thank you," she said. "She took my money for no reason." Jake waved a hand. "No problem," he said. "That's why I'm here." The old man with the cane shuffled closer. "What happened?" he asked, his voice shaky. Jake turned to him. "She was stealing," he said. "Made up fines and kept the cash. I'm a detective. Been watching her." The old man's eyes got wide. "A detective," he said. "With that truck?" Jake grinned a little. "Yep," he said. "Tint and all." The mom with the kids came out too. Her little boy ran ahead, pointing at Jake. "Are you a policeman?" he asked, bouncing on his toes. Jake nodded. "Sort of," he said. "I'm a detective. I catch bad people." The boy's mouth made an O shape. "Cool," he said. The mom smiled. "She made us pay for our dog barking," she said. $20. Jake shook his head. "Not anymore," he said. "She's done." More people came out. A guy with glasses. A lady with a baby. They all had stories. "She fined me for my trash can," the guy said. "She said my stroller was too loud," the lady added. They gathered around Jake, talking fast, telling him how Karen had bossed them around. They'd been scared of her for years, scared of her clipboard, her loud voice, her mean rules. But now they weren't scared. Now they were free. Jake listened to them all. He didn't say much, just nodded and smiled a little. The taller cop stayed too, watching the crowd grow. "You're a hero around here now," he said to Jake. Jake shrugged again. "Just doing my job," he said. But the neighbors didn't think it was just a job. To them, he'd saved the day. The street got noisy now, not with Karen's yelling, but with happy voices. People laughed. They clapped Jake on the back. Mrs. Carter brought him a cookie from her kitchen. "For you," she said. Jake took it. "Thanks," he said, biting into it. It was chocolate chip, his favorite. The sun was still up, shining bright over Pinewood Estates. The police car was long gone, and Karen with it. She'd be at the station now, answering questions, facing what she'd done. She wouldn't boss anyone around anymore. No more fake fines. No more clipboard. No more trouble. Jake leaned back against his truck again. The black paint was warm from the sun, and those dark windows looked just the same. To Karen, they'd been a problem, something to fight about. But to Jake, they were his secret weapon. They'd kept him hidden while he watched her, waited, and won. Now everyone knew the truth. He wasn't just a guy with a truck. He was Detective Jake Riley, and he'd brought justice to the neighborhood. The taller cop got ready to leave. "See you at the station," he asked Jake. Jake nodded. "Yeah," he said. "Gotta finish some paperwork." The cop laughed. "Always more paperwork," he said. He waved and walked to his car, the one Mike had come in. Mike was gone too, back to wherever detectives go after a big catch. The neighbors stayed a little longer, talking and smiling. They didn't whisper anymore. They didn't peek. They stood tall, happy to be rid of Karen. Jake watched them, finishing his cookie. He didn't need to say much. He'd done what he came to do. The neighborhood was safe now, safe and quiet, the way it should be. And that truck? It sat there, shiny and black, with its dark tint gleaming in the light. It wasn't just a truck anymore. It was a hero's truck. Jake's truck. And Pinewood Estates would never forget it. And just like that, Pinewood Estates changed. It got a little quieter and a lot fairer. The police car was gone now, taking Karen Miller away with it. Her loud voice didn't echo down the street anymore. Her clipboard didn't scare anyone. The neighborhood felt different, like it could finally take a big, happy breath. All because of Jake Riley, Detective Jake Riley, and his sneaky plan with that dark-tinted truck. The sun was still shining over the houses. The green grass looked bright, and the flowers waved in the breeze. Kids would be home from school soon, riding their bikes and laughing. Grown UPS would come back from work, parking their cars and smiling at each other. No one would have to worry about Karen's fake fines or mean rules. She was gone, and things were better now. Way better. Jake stood by his truck, watching it all. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. He'd done his job, and that was enough for him. The neighbors were still out, talking and clapping him on the back. Mrs. Carter gave him that cookie, and the little boy asked if he was a policeman. They all saw him different now. He wasn't just the new guy with the weird truck. He was a hero, a quiet hero who fixed a big problem they didn't even know they had. Funny how that works, right? Karen thought Jake was the problem. She saw his truck with those dark windows and decided he was bad news. She yelled about it, pointed at it, called the cops on it. She was so sure he was up to no good. But she was wrong. Really wrong. Jake wasn't the one making trouble, he was the one fixing it. He was the good guy all along, hiding behind that tint, watching and waiting to help. It makes you think. Sometimes the person you think is the problem might just be the one saving the day. Karen judged Jake fast. She didn't like his truck, so she didn't like him. She didn't stop to ask why he was there or what he was doing. She just got mad and loud. But if she'd looked closer, if she'd been quieter, maybe she'd have seen the truth. Maybe she'd have figured out he wasn't her enemy. He was her neighbor's friend. That's a big lesson, isn't it? Next time you see someone minding their own business, maybe don't judge too quick. Maybe they're not bothering anyone. Maybe they're doing something good, something you can't see yet. Like Jake. He was quiet, washing his truck, keeping to himself. No one guessed he was a detective. No one thought he was watching out for them. But he was. And he made everything better. The real troublemakers? They're usually the loudest ones in the room. Think about Karen. She walked around with her clipboard, shouting at people, telling them what to do. She acted big and important, like she owned the place. Everyone heard her. Everyone saw her. She made so much noise that no one noticed Jake, the quiet guy with the plan. She was loud, but she was wrong. And her loudness got her caught. It's funny how that happens. The loud ones think they're winning, but sometimes they're just making it easy for the quiet ones to win instead. Jake didn't need to yell. He didn't need to fight Karen back. He just stayed calm, watched, and waited. And when the time was right, bam, he showed everyone who she really was. That's smart. That's strong. That's what a hero does. So what do you think? Ever misjudged someone who turned out to be a hero? Maybe it was a kid at school who seemed shy but helped you with homework. Or a neighbor who didn't talk much but fixed your bike. Or even a teacher who looked strict but turned out to be kind. It happens all the time. We look at people and guess who they are, but we don't always get it right. Sometimes the best people are the ones we don't notice at first. Jake was like that. Karen saw his truck and thought, trouble. She didn't see a detective. She didn't see a helper. She just saw something she didn't like, and she made a big fuss. But Jake didn't let that stop him. He kept going, quiet and steady, until the truth came out. And when it did, everyone cheered. Well, almost everyone. Karen didn't cheer. But the neighbors did. They were happy to have Jake around. Pinewood Estates was peaceful now. The sun started to dip a little, turning the sky orange and pink. Jake's truck sat there, black and shiny, with those dark windows still hiding nothing but his secret job. The neighbors went back inside, one by one. Mrs. Carter waved at Jake before closing her door. The old man with the cane nodded at him. The mom and her kids went in too, the little boy still talking about how cool Jake was. Jake stayed outside a minute longer. He looked at his truck, then at the empty street. He smiled just a tiny smile and shook his head. All in a day's work, he said to himself, like he did before. Then he turned and went inside his house. The door clicked shut, and the neighborhood was quiet again. But it was a good quiet this time. A happy quiet. That's the thing about heroes. They don't always look like heroes. They don't always act big or loud. Sometimes they're just regular people, doing their thing, helping when no one's looking. Jake didn't need a cape or a fancy car. He had his truck, his tint, and his smart brain. That was enough to stop Karen and make things fair. So next time you're quick to point at someone and say, they're weird, or they're trouble. Stop for a second. Take a breath. Look a little closer. Maybe they're not what you think. Maybe they're the ones fixing stuff you didn't even know was broken. Maybe they're the Jakes of the world, waiting to surprise you with something good. Karen learned that the hard way. She judged Jake fast and loud, and it backfired. She thought she was the boss, but she ended up in handcuffs. Jake didn't judge her, he just watched and waited. And when the time came, he showed everyone the truth. That's power. Real power. Not yelling or bossing, but helping and doing what's right. Pinewood Estates would remember that. The neighbors would talk about it for a long time, how the new guy with the truck turned out to be a detective. How he stopped Karen and her fake fines. How he made their little world better. They'd smile when they saw his truck now, not frown. They'd wave at him instead of whispering. He wasn't just a neighbor anymore, he was their hero. And you? What about you? Have you ever seen someone and thought one thing, but they turned out to be something else? Maybe a friend who seemed quiet but stood up for you. Or a kid who looked messy but shared their snack. It happens more than we think. People surprise us. They're not always what they seem. And that's pretty cool, isn't it? So let's think about Jake and Karen. Karen was loud and wrong. Jake was quiet and right. She made trouble. He fixed it. She judged fast. He waited slow. And in the end, the quiet guy won. That's a story worth remembering. A story that says, hey, don't be so sure you know everything. The real heroes might be hiding right in front of you. Pinewood Estates was quieter now, sure. But it was more than that. It was fairer. It was happier. All because one guy with a truck didn't let the loud troublemaker win. So next time you're out there in your school, your street, your world, look around. Who's loud? Who's quiet? Who's making trouble? Who's fixing it? You might be surprised what you find. What do you think? Ever misjudged someone who turned out to be a hero? Tell me about it. I bet you've got a story just as good as Jake's. Maybe not with a truck or a detective, but with someone who tricked you in a good way. Someone who was better than you thought. Let me know below. I'd love to hear it. And hey, while you're at it, keep an eye out for the Jakes in your life. They're out there, quiet and sneaky, making things better. They don't need to shout. They just do what's right. That's the best kind of hero, don't you think? So, Pinewood Estates was peaceful again. The sun was almost down now, painting the sky with pretty colors, orange, pink, and a little purple too. The houses looked cozy with their lights coming on inside. Jake's truck sat in the driveway, quiet and still, like it was resting after a big day. The dark windows didn't scare anyone anymore. They didn't make people whisper or point. Now they just reminded everyone of Jake, the guy who tricked Karen and saved the day. Let's think about that for a minute. Jake didn't look like a hero at first. He didn't wear a shiny badge or drive a loud police car. He didn't even talk much. He was just a guy with a truck, washing it, waving at kids, keeping to himself. Karen saw him and thought, trouble. She didn't like his tint, didn't like his quiet way. She judged him super fast, like she judged everyone. But she got it all wrong. Jake wasn't trouble, he was the fix. That's something to chew on. How many times do we look at someone and decide stuff about them right away? Maybe you see a kid at school with old shoes and think, they're not cool. Or a grown-up with a messy yard and think, they're lazy. We do it all the time, don't we? We look and guess and make up stories in our heads. But what if those stories are wrong? What if that kid with old shoes is super nice? What if that grown-up with the messy yard is busy helping someone else? Jake's story shows us that. Karen thought she knew him. She thought his truck meant he was sneaky in a bad way. She didn't wait to find out more. She just got loud and mad. But Jake? He didn't care what she thought. He didn't fight back with yelling. He just kept doing his job, watching, waiting, helping. And when the truth came out, everyone saw who he really was. A detective. A hero. Someone who made things fair. Fairness is a big deal, isn't it? In Pinewood Estates, Karen made everything unfair. She took people's money with her fake fines. She bossed them around like she was the queen. People were scared to say no because she was so loud and mean. But Jake changed that. He didn't let her keep being unfair. He stopped her, and now the neighborhood could be happy again. No more worrying about silly rules or losing cash for nothing. That's what heroes do, they make things fair. They don't always need to be loud or big or flashy. Sometimes they're quiet, like Jake. Sometimes they're just there, doing the right thing when no one's looking. And that's pretty awesome. It's like a secret power, being good without making a fuss about it. Karen didn't have that power. She wanted everyone to see her, hear her, obey her. But Jake? He didn't need all that. He just needed his truck and his brain. So, what's the lesson here? Maybe it's this: don't be too quick to decide who someone is. Give them a chance. Look a little longer. Listen a little more. The person you think is weird or wrong might be the one fixing stuff you didn't even know was broken. Like Jake with his tint. Karen hated it, but it was his way of hiding so he could help. It was his hero trick. Think about your own life now. Who's around you? Who's quiet? Who's loud? Maybe there's a Jake out there, a friend, a neighbor, a kid in your class. Someone you didn't notice much before. What if they're doing something cool, something brave, and you just don't know it yet? What if they're waiting for the right moment to surprise you, like Jake surprised Karen? And what about the Karens? The loud ones who boss everyone around? They're out there too. Maybe not with a clipboard, but with big voices and mean ideas. They might seem like they're in charge, but that doesn't mean they're right. Sometimes they're the ones making trouble, not fixing it. Jake showed us that. He didn't let Karen's loudness win. He stayed calm and smart, and he beat her at her own game. That's a cool thing to remember. Loud doesn't mean strong. Quiet doesn't mean weak. Karen was loud, but she lost. Jake was quiet, but he won. So maybe next time someone's yelling or acting big, you don't have to be scared. Maybe they're just hiding something like Karen hid her stealing. And maybe the quiet ones are the ones to watch. They might be the real heroes. Let's imagine Pinewood Estates tomorrow. The kids will ride their bikes again, laughing and racing. Mrs. Carter will water her flowers, bright ones, because she can now. The old man with the cane will sit on his porch, smiling at the sun. The mom and her little boy will play with their dog, and it can bark all it wants. No one will come with a clipboard. No one will ask for money they don't owe. It's all fair now, thanks to Jake. Jake will be there too. Maybe washing his truck again, because he likes it clean. Maybe waving at the kids or nodding at Mrs. Carter. He won't say much. He won't brag about catching Karen. He'll just keep being Jake, quiet, steady, good. That's who he is. And that's why Pinewood Estates loves him. So what about you? Have you ever been wrong about someone? Maybe you thought a kid was mean, but they shared their lunch with you. Or you thought a teacher was boring, but they made class fun one day. It happens a lot. We guess, and we miss. But that's okay, it's how we learn. Next time, you can try something different. Look closer. Wait a bit. See what's really going on. And if you're the quiet one? If you're the Jake in your story? That's cool too. You don't have to be loud to be strong. You don't have to shout to be heard. You can just do your thing, help out, make stuff better. Like Jake did. He didn't need to tell everyone he was a detective. He showed them when it mattered. That's real power showing, not shouting. Pinewood Estates is a little story, but it's got a big idea. It's about judging, waiting, helping. It's about loud troublemakers and quiet heroes. It's about a truck with dark tint that turned out to be more than just a truck. And it's about you because you've got your own Pinewood Estates, don't you? Your own place with loud ones and quiet ones, problems and fixes. So what do you think? Ever misjudged someone who turned out to be a hero? Maybe it was your big brother who seemed annoying but helped you with a game. Or a friend who didn't talk much but stood by you when you were sad. Tell me about it. I bet you've got a Jake in your life somewhere. Someone who surprised you with how good they were. And if you haven't found them yet, keep looking. They're out there. Maybe next door, maybe in your class, maybe down the street. Quiet heroes don't wave big flags. They don't yell, "Look at me." They just do their thing, like Jake with his truck. And when you find them, you'll smile just like the neighbors did when Karen's car drove away. Let's wrap this up with one last thought. Pinewood Estates got quieter and fairer because Jake didn't give up. He didn't let Karen's loudness scare him. He stayed calm, stayed smart, stayed good. You can do that too. When things get loud or unfair, you don't have to shout back. You can watch, wait, help. You can be the Jake in your story. How cool would that be? So tell me, who's your hero? Who'd you misjudge? Drop it below. I want to hear all about it. And while you're thinking, remember Jake and his truck. Quiet wins sometimes. Fair wins too. And that's a pretty great thing to know.